5 marriages, 5 women, one of the most unpredictable love lives in Hollywood history. Nicolas Cage has won an Academy Award, starred in over 100 films, and become one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. But for all his on-screen chaos, nothing quite prepared the public for the real-life story unfolding behind the cameras. From a Hollywood actress to the daughter of the king of rock and roll, from a quiet waitress to a 4-day marriage that made international headlines, and finally, to a young Japanese woman who may have given him the stability he spent decades searching for. This is the full story of every woman Nicolas Cage married and where each of them is today. Nicolas Cage was born Nicholas Kim Coppola in 1964, the nephew of legendary director Francis Ford Coppola. From the beginning, he carried both the weight and the privilege of that name. He dropped the family surname early in his career, a deliberate move to forge his own identity. And forge it, he did. By the mid-1990s, Nicolas Cage was untouchable. He had won the Academy Award for Best Actor for his devastating performance in Leaving Las Vegas in 1995. He followed that with blockbuster after blockbuster. The Rock, Con Air, Face Off, National Treasure. He was simultaneously a prestige actor and an action hero, a rare combination that almost no one in Hollywood has ever managed to pull off. His personal life naturally became just as much of a spectacle as his career. Cage was known for his eccentric personality, his philosophical approach to acting, and his intense all-or-nothing energy. That same energy played out in his relationships, often very publicly. The story of Nicolas Cage and Patricia Arquette sounds almost too cinematic to be real, because in many ways, it started like a movie, according to Patricia Arquette herself. Cage approached her when she was just 18 years old and told her he wanted to marry her. She reportedly gave him a playful list of near-impossible tasks to complete before she would agree. Items like a black orchid and a Bob's Big Boy autograph. The story, which Arquette shared publicly over the years, became one of Hollywood's most charming romantic legends. They did not get together immediately. Years passed. Careers were built. And then in 1995, the same year Cage took home that Oscar, the two finally married. Patricia Arquette was already a respected actress in her own right. She had appeared in True Romance and would go on to win her own Academy Award years later for Boyhood. In the mid-1990s, they were genuinely one of Hollywood's golden couples. Their relationship played out largely out of the public eye, which was a deliberate choice on both their parts. They had one son together, Weston Cage, born in 1990, years before their marriage. By 2001, the marriage had ended. The divorce was finalized quietly, with neither party making inflammatory statements. Arquette later reflected on the relationship with warmth, describing Cage as a significant part of her life without bitterness. Today, Patricia Arquette is one of the most acclaimed actresses of her generation. She won the Emmy Award and Golden Globe for her role in the television series Medium, and her Oscar win for Boyhood in 2015 cemented her legacy. She remains active in Hollywood, outspoken on social issues, and by every measure, thriving. If the Patricia Arquette chapter was unexpected, the Lisa Marie Presley chapter was genuinely shocking. In 2002, Nicolas Cage married Lisa Marie Presley, the only child of Elvis Presley. After just a few months of dating, the announcement sent media outlets into overdrive. Two of the most famous families in American entertainment history suddenly connected. Lisa Marie was no stranger to high-profile relationships. She had previously been married to musician Danny Keough, with whom she had 2 children, and famously to Michael Jackson. Her life had been defined by public scrutiny from childhood, and her relationship with Cage was no exception. The two reportedly bonded over shared experiences of fame loss and the particular loneliness that comes with having a last name the entire world recognizes. There was a genuine emotional connection reported between them, two people who understood, perhaps better than anyone, what it meant to live entirely in the public eye. The marriage lasted just over 3 months. Cage filed for divorce in November 2002, citing irreconcilable differences. It was brief, headline-making, and deeply human in its impermanence. Lisa Marie Presley's story, however, did not end there. She went on to have twins with her third husband, musician Michael Lockwood, and later married a 4th time. Her life remained turbulent and publicly scrutinized. Tragically, Lisa Marie Presley passed away in January 2023 following a cardiac arrest, just days after attending the Golden Globe Awards. She was 54 years old. Her death prompted an enormous outpouring of grief from fans across the world. Her legacy as her father's daughter, and as a person who navigated an almost incomprehensible level of fame, endures. Less than a year after his divorce from Lisa Marie Presley, Nicolas Cage married again. This time, the woman was not famous. She was not from a dynasty. She was a young waitress named Alice Kim, whom Cage met at a restaurant in Los Angeles. They married in July 2004 in a private outdoor ceremony in Northern California. Alice Kim was 20 years old at the time. Cage was 40. The age gap drew commentary, but what struck many observers was the genuine quietness of the relationship that followed. Together, they had a son, Kal-El Cage, born in 2005. Yes, Kal-El, the birth name of Superman. It was a characteristically bold choice from a man who had always operated on his own terms. For over a decade, the marriage appeared to be Cage's most stable. Alice remained private, rarely appearing at public events, and largely shielding their son from the spotlight. Cage himself spoke warmly about family life in interviews during this period. By 2016, however, the couple had separated. Alice Kim filed for legal separation after 12 years together. No dramatic public falling out followed. The separation was handled with dignity on both sides. Alice Kim remains a very private individual. She has stayed largely out of the public eye since the separation, focusing on raising their son. She does not maintain a notable public presence, and by all accounts, that is precisely how she prefers it. In March 2019, Nicolas Cage married Erika Koike in Las Vegas. 4 days later, he filed for an annulment. The story made headlines around the world, not because it was malicious, but because it was so strikingly brief. Cage cited intoxication at the time of the marriage in his annulment filing, and later withdrew that specific claim. The annulment was ultimately granted. Erika Koike is a makeup artist and has maintained a low profile before and after the marriage. She reportedly contested certain aspects of the annulment process, though ultimately the legal proceedings concluded relatively quickly. The episode was widely covered as a tabloid moment, but it deserves a more measured reading. Two people made an impulsive decision. They recognized it quickly, and they moved on. Koike has since remained private, and the full details of her personal life remain her own. In February 2021, Nicolas Cage married Riko Shibata, a Japanese actress and model, in a small ceremony in Las Vegas. He was 57. She was 26. The two had reportedly been dating since 2020, having met in Japan during one of Cage's visits. Rico Shibata is by most accounts warm, grounded, and deeply private, qualities that seem to have brought a measure of peace to a man whose personal life had been anything but. In 2022, the couple welcomed a daughter together, whom they named Lennon Cage. It was Cage's first daughter after 2 sons. Riko Shibata has made occasional public appearances alongside Cage at industry events, but she has not pursued celebrity status of her own. She appears to have chosen a life that exists beside fame without being consumed by it. As of today, Nicolas Cage and Riko Shibata remain married. By most accounts, the relationship is stable and genuinely happy. 5 marriages across 3 decades tell a story that is both uniquely Nicolas Cage's and remarkably universal. Here is a man who found fame early, lived inside it completely, and spent years searching, sometimes quietly, sometimes spectacularly, for the kind of connection that fame cannot manufacture. Some of those searches ended quickly. Some lasted over a decade. Each one let you they could spaitain whole up. What is striking, looking at all 5 women together, is how different they are from one another. A fellow actress, a musical dynasty's daughter, a waitress who wanted privacy, a brief chapter in Las Vegas, and a young woman from Japan who appears, at last, to have given him something close to peace. Celebrity marriages are often treated as entertainment, as spectacle to be consumed and discarded, but behind every headline is a real relationship, with real emotional stakes between real people navigating something genuinely difficult, building a private life while the whole world is watching. Nicolas Cage has never been easy to categorize. Perhaps that is why his love life never was either. Which of his relationships surprised you the most? And do you think fame makes lasting love harder to find, or simply harder to hide?